Good morning. I'm here today to read A Dog's Purpose. We're on chapter 23. My nose told me Zizi and Linman were in the house, but I didn't see them as we turned down a hall and into a room with a fire burning in a hole in the wall. Lacey and I rolled and played and chewed on each other, but reacted whenever Burke said, "Hey, settle down." We could hear anger in his voice, so we usually did sit, being good dogs, until one of us bit the other in the face. This isn't something you get voted, Burke. Please understand that. I do understand that, but you're only 17. My dad's sister was 17 when she got married. Okay, that's certainly relevant. I have to ask. Burke held his hand out in front of his stomach. Are you, Wenley frowned, really fat? Come on. Lacey sprawled on her back, her teeth showing, and I put my jaws around her neck. No, I'm not. Doesn't it occur to you that maybe I want to do this? Really, though? So you're not going to college? Lacey bowed and twisted and jumped, ready for more. Of course I am. No one said anything about not going to college. But speaking of that, it really hurt when I sent you a message about being disqualified from the Air Force Academy, and you said nothing. Why couldn't you have answered me? I glanced at Burke because he seemed to be staring at the floor. You're right. I should have. I'm sorry. I wasn't in a good place. Okay, Wenling responded quietly. But you're going to MU, right? Unless you're married, I mean. I am going to MU, and so is Grant. We're in love. People in love get married. Lacey and I lifted our noses in exactly the same motion. A heavy rain was pounding its way toward us. People in love don't get married when one of them just graduated from high school. I mean, they do, but I just can't see you doing that. Is it because of your parents? Your father? Wenlin shrugged. Maybe a little. This is so wrong. He's got some insane idea that 100 years out of date, and you're just caving to him. Wenling was sad. She wiped tears from her face, and Lacey was right there, wagging and trying to lick her wet cheeks, hoping to make Wenling feel better. My father says I've dishonored the family. God, that's just so. Burke lifted his hands and dropped them in his lap. He was raised with traditional values. Honor is very important to him. I think it was worse that it was in the bar, where he works, than anything else. Why didn't you just use my bedroom? It has first floor window. Wenling laughed through her tears. I'm actually serious. Burke was quiet a moment. His frown deepened. Your dad is traditional. Plus he wants the farm, right? If you marry Grant, it will be in the family. Wenling's mouth dropped open. Lacey muzzled her hand. This is the most offensive thing you have ever said to me, Burke Trevino. I'm sorry, but you told me he was pressuring you to find a Chinese boy when you were my girlfriend. Now he's all about Grant. Maybe it was because I was in a wheelchair and he couldn't picture me as a farmer. But he wants the farm. God, are you going to see everything through that lens for your whole life? You're out of the chair. No one cares how you spent your childhood. Wenling's shouts made Lacey and me uneasy. I sat by Burke's side, watching him for a clue as to what was happening. He took a deep breath. Okay, I take it all back. I'm sorry. You're right. That was insulting. I get that. I'm just angry at your father. He's acting like you're not even your own person. The rain was now tapping at the house, a slowly building roar. Wenling reached out and stroked Lacey, who was also being a good dog, doing sit. I know. I could do no wrong when I was little. But when I started wearing makeup, I could see the distaste in Dad's eyes. Like he thinks I'm going to turn into an ill woman. Maybe marrying the son of a landowner does seem to him like he's found a way to save me from being a fallen woman. How does your mom feel about it? Oh, you know. One minute she's totally against it, and the next she is talking about wedding dresses. But she'll back me on anything I want to do. She paid for my pilot's license when my hours got cut. Wenley, I love you. She drew a deep breath. Burke held her hand. Not in a I want to marry you way. I love you because we were together all through middle school. You said it. We're best friends, which means I really, really care about this. If you want to marry Grant, I'll be your maid of honor. Just why rush it? If it's meant to be, then you can date all through college. Get married when you graduate. She smiled. He got down on one knee. It was so romantic. That's Grant. Mr. Romance. Stop. No, it was just my father was all, I assume you're getting married since you were acting like a wife. And I tried to explain about what it means to be promised, but he goes storming off to talk to your father, like they're going to work it out between them, and then Grant comes over, and I thought for just a minute, I'm engaged? One twirled in a circle. Then you show up and spoil it. Oh, sorry. I'm kidding. I knew it was all fantasy. You're right. All day I've been trying not to deal with any reality. She shook her head. This is going to really hurt Grant's feelings. He was so, I don't know, his face was so hopeful, you know? Like for the first time since I've known him, he settled on exactly what he wants to do. I was still watching Burke, but the anger seemed to have left the room. I see how he looks at you, Wendling. I know it's real. You want to see the ring? You got a ring already? This morning. I took it off when I heard you pull in the driveway. Wendling stood and went to a table and opened a small box. She handed something to Burke. Lacey and I could tell it was nothing edible. Burke handed it back to her. Pretty. Well, put it on. Wendling was looking at the thing in her hand, a sad smile on her face. No, I don't think I should wear it until I'm really ready for what it means. The quiet roar was steadily building, getting louder and louder. Burke looked up at the ceiling. It's really coming down up there. They said like 4 inches. So do you want me to talk to my brother? No. I mean, yes. Wouldn't that be easy? But no. I have to be the one who tells him. I snapped my attention to my boy, who had given a sudden start. Wendling frowned. What's wrong? Burke was on his feet. The beaver pond. I forgot all about it. What are you talking about? I have to go. There's a family of beavers I found. This much rain will flood them out. Maybe I can do something to save them. Come on, Cooper. I'll go with you. Burke grabbed some tools from the garage and threw them in the trunk, and then Wendling and Lacey climbed with me back into the car. Car ride in the rain. Burke was driving. So the robo-drones are most effective when all the crop rows are straight, and I guess that goes for streams too. They wiped out all the twists and turns in the creek and forced it to go into a straight line in a cement trough all the way to the edge of their property, so there's nothing to absorb the flood. The water's going to come out of there like it's being shot from a cannon. What can we do? Burke gave her a grin. I don't know exactly. It was still raining when he stopped the car. The fat drops flaring in the headlights, which Burke left on, pointed out at a small pond I recognized. Lacey immediately jumped in the water, but I stayed by Burke. I could tell by his mood he was going to need me. He pointed, Look, the beavers are piling more branches on their den. The water must already be rising. There's a baby, Wendling exclaimed. My attention was drawn to some squirrel-like animals in the water. They were dragging sticks as if they were dogs. One of them was much smaller than the other two. Burke opened the trunk of the car and handed something to Wendling. There's a hatchet. I'll take the axe. Let's go. Lacey and I watched, dumbfounded, as Burke and Wendling began chopping at small trees and running to throw them on a big pile of brush at the edge of the pond. The water squirrels immediately vanished. Lacey picked up a stick and ran around with it, thinking she understood what was going on. But my focus was on Burke. This was like, get it. It was get it, the stick, and then get it, another. I plunged deeper into the woods, found a branch, and dragged it to Burke. Good job, Cooper. He grabbed and threw it on the pile. Lacey romped by her stick, and I gave chase briefly, and then turned to get my own. I took it to Burke. Good job. A water squirrel came out and seemed to watch for a moment before swimming to the far side of the pond and paddling back with its own stick in its mouth. It scaled up the pile and deposited the branch and went back, followed by the 2 other water squirrels carrying their own sticks. We were all doing get it. Lacey wanted to chase the other squirrels. I could tell by the way she was watching. I went to her and did steady, blocking her. She sniffed me. Didn't she know about get it? The baby can barely drag the branches, Wendling said, but she's doing it. I noticed that the smallest water squirrel was hardly keeping its nose out of the water as it glided across the pond with its branches. They know if they don't succeed, they'll all perish, Burke replied. Lacey eventually crawled on her belly and started chewing her sticks to bits, while I went back to helping Burke and Wendling. Wendling cheered when the rain tapered off. Burke broke off a branch. We have to keep going. The water will rise for a while yet. There are far more fun ways to play with sticks, but we played get it for a long, long, long time. Burke looked around the pond and grinned. Water stopped rising. The dam is going to hold. Wendling hugged him and they jumped into the car. Lacey and I were soaked. We lay down together in the back, cold and too tired to do much more than nibble on each other's lips. Wendling rubbed her hands together, shivering. I'm freezing. Heat's on. It'll be warm in a minute. He held up his phone. So Lulu's owners called and left a message while we were busy. Do you want to go with me to take her back? Sure, Bert. That was fun, and it felt important. Thank you for including me. If we hadn't shown up, they wouldn't have made it. And I was thinking the whole time, here's this beaver mother and father and baby, and they know what to do because they're beavers, and they're side by side making their life. That's how marriage is supposed to be. You do know beavers are rodents, don't you? Stop. I'm just trying to say I don't know what I want to do with my life. I had this plan, join the Air Force, become a pilot. Then I decided I wanted to study agricultural science, horticulture. But maybe when I get to school, I'll change my mind. The beavers know for certainty what to do, and until I do too, I can't get engaged. Right. I think you said that back at your house. Would you please stop being so irritating? I'm saying this was a profound experience. For some reason, we dropped Lacey off at the same house where I had found her once before, a stranger's house, though Lacey ran right up to the door, which opened for her. Burke left me in the car with Wendling and followed Lacey, but he didn't grab her and bring her back to the car as I hoped. He briefly spoke to a woman on the threshold. Then we drove to Wendling's house, and she hugged Burke and got out. And then we returned to the farm without her. Almost none of the day made any sense to me at all. I saw Wendling the next day, though. She drove over. Burke and Grandma and Chase Dad were all off somewhere. I was happy to see her. She and Grant sat under a tree and talked, and at one point he yelled at her. I saw her hand him something, and he angrily walked into the house, and then she drove away. I was nearly successfully catching squirrels when I heard Grandma's car in the driveway. I raced home. Everyone was carrying sacks filled with great food smells when I pushed through the dog door. Then Grant stepped up downstairs in the angriest walk I had ever witnessed. He strode over to Burke, and Burke set his bag down and faced him. Grant reached out with two hands and shoved him hard, and Burke stumbled and fell, and I went to him to do study, but he jumped up on his own 2 feet. Chase Dad and Grandma darted swiftly out of the house. Hey, settle down, Chase Dad commanded in a loud voice. Grant whirled. Wendling broke off the engagement. Chase Dad and Grandma looked at each other. Grant, Grandma started to say, because he said her father only wants to marry me so that the farm will be his someday. That's crazy, Chase Dad declared after a moment. ZZ would never, is what Burke told her. Grant turned back and shoved Burke again, but this time Burke remained on his feet. You can hit me if you want, Grant. I won't fight back, Burke said quietly. There's not going to be a fight. Did you really say that, Burke? Chase Dad demanded. I suggested it was a possibility, is all. Chase Dad shook his head. Well, that's just foolish. You owe your brother an apology. The farm is going to both you boys equally, but you share it. For you share it. Work it together. Burke raised his hands and then let them fall to his side. Dad, I want to be an engineer. I want to design and build dams, things like that. Grant's the farmer. Grant snorted contemptuously. Me? I'm not spending my whole life completely broke. The fury came pouring off Chase Dad. He slammed his fist down on a table. This farm has been in the family for generations, and I'm busting my butt every day to keep it going, and you're just walking away, he shouted. This place means nothing to you. My whole life means nothing. What about my life? Grant screamed. You work me like a dog, like a goddamn slave, and then when I want to do something for me, everyone's against it. The best thing that ever happened to me, and Burke ruins it. She's only 17, Burke shot back. Why can't you wait a few years? What difference does it make? Why don't you think of what's best for Wendling? You're no different than her father. Grant's fists were knotted. You're just jealous. She picked me over you. My head whipped around. Grandma had fallen into a chair and was slumped sideways. I patted over to her, conscious of a foreign odor rising from her skin. You're not a slave, Grant, Chase Dad seethed. That's ridiculous. This farm belongs to the family. We work it together. It's our source of income, of everything. I barked. They all turned and looked at me. I barked again. Mom! Chase Dad ran to her chair. Oh, God, Mom. Grant, call 911. He pulled Grandma right onto the floor, face up. He started pushing his hands onto her chest. Mom. We'll have to see. Have a great day. Hope she's okay. I love Grandma.